these programs do not protect you from bad investments. If your ETF drops 40% because the stock market crashes, you're not protected. If you have ever bought an ETF or a stock through a broker, then this video is for you. Imagine opening your phone tomorrow morning and seeing the headline, Vanguard files for bankruptcy. Your first thought probably will be, that's horrible for Vanguard, but what about my money? Where is my ETF? If you invest through companies like Vanguard, Interactive Brokers, Fidelity, Schwab, Trading 212, or any other major broker, you have probably wondered the same thing. What happens if my broker goes bankrupt? Would my investments disappear? Would I lose my ETFs? What about the cash sitting in my investment account? Now, this may sound like something that would only happen in a financial movie, but after the collapse of major institutions like Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse, these questions suddenly became very real. And so in this video, we are going to look at what exactly happens if your bank goes bust, what would happen if your broker goes bust, and ultimately, what would happen if your ETF provider goes bust. Now let's start with a bank. Let's start with something that almost everyone has, a bank account. So when you deposit money into your bank account, it certainly feels like you are storing it there for safekeeping. But legally, that is a simplified version of what actually happens. When you deposit, let's say $100 into your bank account, that money technically becomes the bank's money. In return, the bank owes you that same amount when you ask for it back. Think of it as giving the bank an IOU. Your money doesn't just sit in a vault with your name on it. Instead, the bank uses deposits to make mortgages, business loans, car loans, and it also invests in other assets. That's exactly how banking works. Most of the time, this system works perfectly fine, but history has shown us exactly what can happen when it goes wrong. Now let's rewind to the year 2008. Back then, many banks issued mortgages to borrowers who simply couldn't afford them. Those loans were then bundled together into complex financial products and sold around the world as relatively safe investments. For years, everyone believed everything was fine, until homeowners started defaulting. Suddenly, those safe investments weren't safe at all. Banks started to lose enormous amounts of money, and the entire system started to unravel, triggering one of the worst financial crises in modern history. Some banks collapsed and others had to be bailed out by governments. The entire global financial system came frighteningly close to breaking down. And this is why many countries have deposit protection schemes, because if your bank fails, you shouldn't automatically lose your life savings. In the US, eligible deposits are generally protected by the FDIC, up to $250,000 per depositor per insured bank. In the UK, the Financial Services Compensation Scheme protects eligible deposits up to £120,000 per person per authorized institution. And these protections do exist because, unlike investments, bank deposits become part of the bank's balance sheet. And that's the key difference. But when you invest through a broker, something completely different happens. Now, before looking at what happens if your broker goes bust, let's first understand how a broker works. So let's say you log into your brokerage account and you buy shares of Apple, or perhaps you buy an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. Here's the important part. These investments do not become part of the broker's property. They are not adding your ETFs to their own balance sheet. Your broker's job is to buy or sell or execute your trades, keep records of what you own, provide statements, and give you access to your investments when needed. But the investments themselves remain legally yours. And because of strict financial regulations, customer assets must be kept separate from the broker's own business assets. This legal separation is one of the biggest reasons investors are protected if a brokerage firm goes into financial trouble. But this still leaves one big question. If your broker doesn't actually hold your investments because they have to separate them from their own balance sheet, then who does? Well, the answer is probably the most important concept in this entire video, and something that some investors have never even heard of. Custodians are actually one of the biggest reasons investors can sleep at night. Custodians are some of the largest financial institutions on earth, responsible for safeguarding trillions of dollars worth of assets for investors, pension funds, and governments globally. When you buy shares in a company or you purchase an ETF through a broker, those investments are typically held by one of these specialist custodians on your behalf. And here's the important bit. This means that if your broker, for example, Fidelity, Vanguard, Trading 212, suddenly went bankrupt tomorrow, creditors generally cannot seize your assets because they don't belong to the broker in the first place. They belong to you. Okay, so now that we have cleared up the difference between your bank and your broker and the custodian, let's imagine something worse happens. You open your phone and you read the news that your broker has filed for bankruptcy. It sounds terrifying, but in reality, it usually isn't. In most cases, the regulators would step in very quickly. Customer accounts are typically temporarily frozen while everything is being checked and reconciled. Then those accounts are typically transferred to another regulated brokerage firm. And so your shares don't suddenly disappear and they're not sold off to pay for your broker's debt. And they certainly don't become part of the bankruptcy estate. Now you might be thinking, well, that covers my ETFs and my stocks and my investments, but what about my cash? What about the cash that sits in my brokerage account? Well, this is where things get slightly different. Unlike your shares, the cash sitting inside your brokerage account is usually held within a segregated client bank account. Because the cash has to sit somewhere before you invest it, brokers usually deposit or place client money with one or more banks. Now remember, when we talked about banks, we also mentioned the deposit protection schemes. Well, this means that your cash may be protected under deposit protection schemes. It all depends on how your broker is structured and which country you're investing in. For eligible customers in the USA, SIPC protection generally covers up to $250,000 for cash. And in the UK, this amount is $85,000 for money held in investment accounts. Now, for most everyday investors, this isn't something to lose sleep over. Most people don't leave hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds just sitting inside a brokerage account. You are usually transferring money in, you are buying investments, and you're leaving very little cash behind. Also, many of the largest brokers purchase additional private insurance above those limits, adding an extra layer of protection for their clients. But here's one important point you need to note. These programs do not protect you from bad investments. If your ETF drops 40% because the stock market crashes, you're not protected. If you buy shares in a company that unfortunately goes bankrupt later, again, that is your investment risk and you are not protected. You are only protected from entity risk and not investment risk. So by this point, you might be thinking, well, okay, my broker is probably fine. But what happens if my ETF provider like Vanguard, who manages VOO, VTI, or maybe even BlackRock, who manages iShares, or Fidelity, what happens if one of these guys disappeared? Would millions of investors wake up to find that their ETFs and their monies have vanished overnight? The short answer is no, and here's why. ETFs and mutual funds are designed very differently from ordinary companies. When you invest in an ETF or a mutual fund, you aren't buying shares in Vanguard or BlackRock themselves. You are buying a small ownership stake in a completely separate investment fund. And the fund has one job: to own the investment on behalf of you, the investor. For example, if you own an S&P 500 ETF like VOO, the fund owns shares in around 500 of America's largest companies. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and hundreds of others. The fund manager, whether it's Vanguard, BlackRock, or State Street, is simply responsible for running the fund. You can think of it as the management of a hotel. They run the day-to-day operations, but they don't personally own every single room inside it. And this is an important distinction. If the management company was to disappear tomorrow, the underlying investments don't simply disappear with it. Those shares still exist and they belong to the fund and ultimately to you, the investor. These companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, that are managing these funds usually don't physically hold the investments themselves, just like the brokers. Instead, the assets are looked after by an independent custodian. And this separation is one of the biggest protections built into modern investing. If Vanguard announced bankruptcy, your ETFs don't just stop existing. The management company could be replaced by another investment firm to run the fund. The fund itself could merge with another similar fund, or in some situations, the investments could simply be sold and the proceeds returned to investors. But the existence of the fund is a completely different issue from the financial health of the company managing it. And this is a distinction that every single investor should understand. Now, you might be wondering, well, why do regulators insist on separating the fund manager from the custodian? And the answer is because someone once ignored that rule and stole around $65 billion from investors, making it one of the biggest investment frauds ever committed. Can you venture a guess as to who that person was? Yeah, Bernie Madoff. He wasn't just managing investors' money, he also controlled the custody of many of those assets. There wasn't an independent third party verifying that the investments actually existed. And because there wasn't that independent oversight, he was able to run one of history's largest Ponzi schemes for decades before it finally collapsed in 2008. And I remember working at one of the top investment banks on the day this entire thing unfolded, and it was completely wild.
You know, in today's regulatory environment, it's virtually impossible to violate rules. And this is something that the public really doesn't understand. But it's impossible for you to for a violation to go undetected. Certainly not for a considerable period of time.
But today, regulators are designed specifically to ensure that this sort of fraud is much harder. By separating the fund manager from the custodian, there's another set of eyes checking that assets really do exist. Is the system perfect? Well, no. No financial system is. But it's significantly safer than allowing one company control almost everything. Now, there's one more scenario we do need to look at, and it's actually the one collapse that would really matter. Okay, so far we have looked at 3 different scenarios. A bank fails, a broker fails, and a fund manager fails. And in all 3 cases, there are legal protections designed to keep investors' assets separate. So far, that's actually good news. But now let's imagine something much bigger. What if one of these giant custodians or market infrastructure providers that sit behind the entire financial system suddenly collapsed? Now remember, these are the organizations that help settle trades, they safeguard securities, and they keep the financial markets functioning every single day. If one of those institutions failed, well, technically your investments would still belong to you. But in reality, that probably wouldn't be your biggest concern. You see, if one of these critical pieces of financial infrastructure completely failed, we'd likely be looking at a global financial crisis, far bigger than the collapse of any individual bank or broker. It would affect banks, pension funds, governments, stock exchanges, bond markets, money markets. At this point, everyone, not just investors, would be affected. Governments and central banks would almost certainly step in to try and stabilize the system. Fortunately, this is considered an extremely remote scenario. These institutions are heavily regulated, they are closely monitored, and they form part of the backbone of the global financial system. And thankfully, regulators around the world spend an enormous amount of time trying to prevent this from happening. Now, understanding these protections won't stop markets from rising and falling. But if you ever wake up to a headline that a major broker has collapsed, don't panic and assume that your investments have disappeared. In most cases, the system has been designed specifically to prevent that from happening. And if you would like to see more videos breaking down complicated financial topics into plain English, or perhaps you enjoy personal investing and finance, don't forget to subscribe for weekly videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.